Welcome back to another edition of the Creighton Basketball Newsletter, the video version. I'm John Niatawa with the World Herald, here to talk about a couple new Creighton assistant coaches. The Jays announced on Monday that Ryan Miller and Jalen Courtney Williams will be the two new coaching ads this offseason, replacing the open spots left by Paul Lusk, who went to Purdue, and Terrence Rencher, who went to Oklahoma State. So obviously, Coach Greg McDermott had to, scan the coaching industry and conduct some interviews and find two worthy candidates to fill those spots. I mean, Paul Lusk and Terrence Rencher were both really good people, right? Like they interacted well with Creighton's players, built some really strong bonds. Together, they helped. I mean, they kind of Lusk took the lead here. He kind of spearheaded the improvement of Creighton defensively, but Terrence Rencher's ability to help identify different traits of opponents and their tendencies and add that to the scouting report, that was big too. So those two combined to help Creighton improve defensively. I mean, the Jays were rated as highly, at least from an efficiency standpoint last year, than they've ever been under Greg McDermott defensively. So, and they're just connected, Lusk and Rencher. So like two key losses that the Jays had to replace from an assistant coaching standpoint. And well, it appears that they've done that. Now we'll find out down the road, like, okay, how effective were these hires? I think that ability to mesh and fit in with the culture and somehow kind of retain some continuity, even though it's new faces. You're still, from a player standpoint, you don't necessarily notice a dramatic shift of the way things are, how things are operating. I mean, I'd imagine that was an important factor within the hiring process. It's one thing that Greg McDermott's talked about previously when he's made hires is just the fit and the way that guys work together. Like that's important to him. And so we'll see as the sort of seasons transpire how that unfolds. But I mean, I'm intrigued, man. Like Ryan Miller he's a proven recruiter. His ability to get players, he's done it. He did it at UNLV. They had some top tier recruiting classes when he was on staff there as an assistant, like top 10, top 15 classes. A guy, Rashad Bond, was a player that he helped bring to UNLV. Then at TCU, he's where Ryan Miller's been the last 5 seasons. He's gotten some top tier guys, including Desmond Bain. So I think he'll add to what Creighton. I mean, Creighton's already made progress as a program in terms of recruiting higher rated players, higher profile players, top tier prospects. I mean, the Jays classes over the last 3 to 4 years have kind of just been up and up and up in terms of the rating nationally. And, you can't put all your stock in recruiting rankings. They're flawed, but I wrote about it a little bit in the newsletter today. Like the Jays have elevated their talent level and the profile of the athlete. It's different now than it was 5 years ago, certainly 10 years ago before Creighton joined the Big East. So it's recruited at a higher level. And Alan Huss, who was hired in 2017, has a lot to do with that. Obviously, Greg McDermott's leading the way, but you add in a guy like Ryan Miller, who's proven his ability to that he has contacts all over the country and he'll bring in players. That's obviously a plus. And there's some family ties now. Ryan Miller is the brother of Mike Miller, the longtime NBA veteran, originally South Dakota product. And then Mike Miller, he's in the league for 17 years, won a couple NBA titles. Well, Mike Miller's son, Mason, just signed a letter of intent to play at Creighton. Mason Miller is a 6'9" prospect. Talked about him a lot on this newsletter. If you're watching this, you know who Mason Miller is. Come on. Really talented wing prospect who is he might end up being the highest rated recruit in the Greg McDermott era. Right now he's a number 75 of the 247 Sports Composite ranking, 4-star, really talented. And so he's coming next. He's already signed his letter of intent, so he's coming to join the program this summer. He'll be a freshman on next year's Creighton squad, and now his uncle will be on staff. So kind of a cool storyline there to watch and track. But Ryan Miller's one ad. And then the other coaching ad is Jalen Courtney Williams, former LSU player who got his start at Mississippi State, kind of the grad assistant video coordinator role under Ben Howland, and then got a job at McNeese State, where he's been for 3 seasons, got promoted to associate head coach 2 months ago, 1 month, no, 2 weeks ago, earlier this month, got that promotion was announced. And now he's taken the job at Creighton. So an up and comer, perhaps I think Greg McDermott, what did he refer to him as, a rising star in the business? I mean, Courtney Williams is 28. At first check, he's the youngest Big East youngest assistant coach on a Big East staff. Now, some of these staffs are still getting formulated and put together as DePaul made a coaching change, and there's been some guys shuffling around taking different jobs. So we'll see how it ends up. But right now, he's the youngest, and I would imagine across Power 5, he's one of the youngest. And so, experience does matter in this business. There's no question about that. But there is something to be said about guys who, I don't know, there's that youthful energy, right? Like that piece, that element of being able to relate to players that can matter, not only recruiting, but in terms of helping those guys develop and keeping the bond, the togetherness, sort of the culture in the right spot. I think of Creighton's program and how a lot of the guys, when I talk to them about their experience, certainly on a daily basis in the middle of the season when you're kind of grinding through it, we talked to Christian Bishop after he hit those 2 free throws to advance Creighton out of the NCAA tournament's first round game. Those 2 clutch shots at the end of the game, and he hadn't been a good free throw shooter all year, and he goes to the line. What was he, like 57% or something like that? But the day before in practice, he was shooting free throws and trying to sort of get some advice from a mental standpoint from Ty Nurse, who's been a graduate assistant for the Jays for the last couple seasons. And Ty Nurse, young guy, personable, that players respond to. Like, it just feels like those types of connections can have a lot of value. And players talk about John McHugh a lot, younger guy, former Creighton manager who's now been elevated to an administrative role within the program. Like, the dude just gets it and finds a way to help those guys settle in and find sort of themselves personally, and be a really likable guy that works extremely hard to make the experience of the players a good one at Creighton. And so I don't know, another guy that just connects with players. So I feel like there is a benefit to going young and to getting a guy like Courtney Williams into the fold. So we'll see what kind of impact he can make. And then, I'm sure there's probably a lot of learning to do on the job. And one of the things I'm going to be curious about is how Creighton sort of assigns roles, because the last 3 years, this is kind of an X's and O's scouting perspective, but the last 3 years, Creighton sort of divvied it up almost like a football team, where Paul Lusk was the de facto defensive coordinator, and Al Huss focused on offense, and Terrence Renshaw, as I said, did a lot of scouting report. He did some player development type stuff, and during games, he was really sort of specific about identifying, hey, this move might work here. This guy's going to do this. Be ready to counter this. So they really fit into the roles well. And I wonder what, if anything changes or how it changes. I'm sure something's going to change, how it changes now with the staff in place. So eager to find out more. Like I said, this is Creighton announced this news on Monday, although it's kind of been bubbling underneath the surface for several days now, but it's official today, and I'm recording this reaction video right after it. So eager to find more, and I'll have more for you on the new additions and sort of where Creighton's at, working those guys into the mix. The offseason has begun. Obviously, Creighton's lost a lot of pieces from last year's team, and the Jays have some recruiting to do, because they do still have 4 open scholarships. So still plenty more to track for the Jays this offseason. So follow all our coverage at omaha.com. If you have not signed up for this newsletter, please do. omaha.com/newsletters. Really easy way to sign up and get the alerts. Hoping to have new content for you every week, because like I said, there's a lot to go over and a lot to track this offseason as Creighton sort of transitions away from that core group that had so much success over the last 2 years Big East champion, a share of the Big East championship in 2020 and the Sweet 16 last year. Well, now those 5 starters are gone, and Creighton's looking to see if it can build off that success, carry that momentum into next year. So we'll see what they do. And as I said, I'll be there to track it and document it and provide as much content and analysis as I can on your Creighton Blue Jays. So until next time, appreciate you watching.